Hey everybody, welcome to the Wildrose Way Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Smith, here in Oxford, Mississippi. Please hit that like and subscribe button to get us some more legs and get this podcast out for more people to see. Today, we're going completely away from the dogs. We have Brad Logan with the Logan Media Network, who I've got to know over the last 4 years with Ole Miss football. He covers everything Ole Miss, huge Ole Miss fan. So we're just going to talk dogs, media, football, and a little bit of everything else. Welcome to the podcast, Brad.
Well, Tom, let me first off say this is a beautiful place out here. You know, I've always been very fond of Wildrose, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last couple of years. And just seeing the property and just seeing how beautiful it is and just seeing, you know, the nature aspect and about you guys giving back. And, you know, you and I have talked a little bit before we went on air about the importance of just making sure the world knows how important dogs are to our life. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. And I know we'll talk more about that, but it's just really cool to be out here. And thanks for asking me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been fun getting to know you over the last 4 years, seeing you at all the games and talking football and talking, of course, about juice, you know, on the sidelines and picking the tee. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up about 30 minutes from here in Bruce. It's in Calhoun County. It's one of the few places in the state that doesn't have a 4-lane highway. I mean, you could count the red lights on one hand. And so from a kid like me growing up in Bruce and having aspirations of being a Joe Buck for Fox Sports, you know, and getting up in the morning and reading the newspaper into a tape recorder and reading the scores on the front page of the Daily Journal, and then going in and playing it for my dad, who had just been up all night because he coached high school football and been watching tape and washing clothes. But my dad always sat at the table with me and listened to those scores.
Well, that's awesome.
And so we would critique scores and about how to read them. And back then, at Pontotoc and Tupelo and Houston and West Point, and just following high school football at a very young age, and just really appreciating the small town, the small community, the church that I went to, and just a very close-knit family and church environment.
That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up in a very small town. Yeah. Maybe 7,500 people, you know, so right on the river in southern Indiana. So I miss that aspect, although Oxford is not big without the students, and we're out here in the country, so I can't see my neighbors, which is how I like it.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. You know, I plugged into the GPS, and I don't think I saw a car from the moment I turned on 334. So that's the fascinating part of what of the location of the facility here is. It's absolutely beautiful, and you know, Lafayette County has got a lot of places like this, and it's really cool to have this place out here. And you know, talk about a small town. I know we talked a lot about growing up and supporting different teams and that sort of thing, but I'll tell you that the town that I grew up, it's about 2,500 people, and we have one red light. We do have a turning lane. And that's just about it.
Yeah, and sweet potatoes.
Yeah, we have a lot of sweet potatoes. In fact, about 20 minutes from my hometown in Calhoun County is Vardaman, Mississippi, and that is the sweet potato capital of the world.
Yeah.
So they have a sweet potato festival every year, so it's really, really neat.
Tina's got a work friend who their family does sweet potatoes, and they'll just bring us a big old bag of sweet potatoes, and we'll eat sweet potatoes for 2 weeks. So it's kind of a fun fact about Calhoun County being the sweet potato capital of the world. So you graduated high school and you went to Delta State, correct?
Graduated high school and actually got a master's degree from Delta State. Went there and I really enjoyed my time at the Mississippi Delta. Actually, right out of high school, I went to Northwest Community College. Okay. And that was a situation where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted a career in some form of media, public relations, marketing. So I went to Northwest for 2 years and worked with the sports information office and really enjoyed my time there. Had an opportunity, didn't really have a good opportunity to go to Ole Miss. I didn't have really the financial structure of my upbringing did not allow me to go to Ole Miss. So I had an opportunity to go to Mississippi State. And so that's actually where I received my 4-year degrees from Mississippi State. And
Brad,
I do not, it was obviously, not the team that I was pulling for.
Yeah.
But it was a financial situation where I made some great friends in Starkville, and I really enjoyed my time there. But it was a situation where, home called.
Yeah.
And I was able to come back and then further my career at Delta State, work much more deeper in the media relations office, athletic media relations, and attain my master's degree at Delta State. And then kind of the media career kind of took off after that. But I really enjoyed my time at Delta State because I was the women's basketball contact.
Okay.
And I don't know, a lot of people watching may not know the name Lloyd Clark. But Coach Clark was a Vicksburg, Mississippi native, and he won a ton of games. And back in the days, I don't know, you ever met Langston Rogers at Ole Miss? He was a media relations director at Ole Miss for years and years, but he started at Delta State, and he's actually from Calhoun City, Mississippi, which is about 10 minutes from where I live. And so when Langston was at Delta State, he took over a program that Margaret Wade essentially invented women's college basketball. They won a ton of games back under Coach Wade, beat Ole Miss, beat Mississippi State, beat all the teams in Mississippi. They were the preeminent power in women's basketball in Mississippi. So Coach Clark kind of came in after Coach Wade and kind of continued the success. And so I was the media relations director actually oversaw women's basketball while my time at Delta State. I was kind of the contact for them. I worked for a couple of other guys, but I was the guy that was kind of took care of women's basketball. And so to me, it was great because it made me understand that they may not be the number one sport on campus, but they deserved as much coverage and respect as everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I had a newfound respect for Olympic sports, and that was the generic term for non-revenue sports. And so if you look at sports across campus, for example, like Ole Miss, there are a lot of sports that don't, make a lot of money. Your main sport, obviously, that is football, and that's what drives the ship. Mm-hmm. And so having that background completely, paved the way for me about how to respect certain things. And so really enjoyed my time there. Helped, obviously, with all sports at a small school like Delta State. But Ole Miss has gotten to know a lot of folks that have to do with Delta State. Mm-hmm. Now, Langston Rogers, obviously, the sports information director, he was there when Archie wasn't there, but Archie with Eli was there.
Okay.
And so he kind of oversaw, Ole Miss athletics for quite a while. But now all the Ole Miss people are familiar with Delta State because of head coach Pete Golding. Mm-hmm. He played there, and I know everybody's very familiar with the story. A Hammond, Louisiana native. It walked on, had a little bit of a scholarship under Coach Rick Rose, but Ryan Barker was the product along with quarterback Scott Eicher. And then they said, hey, I got my buddy that I want to bring with me. And, of course, we would know now that was Pete Golding. And so Delta State and Ole Miss have always kind of had a pretty rich tradition. Baseball, Delta State's won that national championship in baseball. And they used to play each other, believe it or not, back in the day, alternating between Cleveland and Oxford. So, but yeah, Pete Golding's the guy that everybody kind of leans towards now. But yeah, after I graduated from Delta State, I just kind of started rock and rolling in the media career, and here we are 20 some odd years later, and I'm sitting here in a beautiful facility here at Wildrose here in Lafayette County.
Yeah, it's been getting to know Pete. That guy's just a maniac.
Yeah,
he's hilarious. He's just funny, and he's such a football mind, and the way the players interact with him has just been crazy these last couple months. I mean, all the defensive guys loved him. Tyler Banks, Raymond Collins, all those guys I know, they absolutely loved Pete. And well, now the offense have got to know him, and it's been fun. And that's a tough spot he was in to take over like that.
Yeah. And he didn't ask for that.
No.
And he admitted that he didn't ask for that. He wanted to be the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. I
Yep.
mean, that's, a Hammond, Louisiana native, but his wife is from Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And he has a special contract with Ole Miss. It was not working for anybody else. It was working for head coach Lane Kiffin, but it was working for the university.
Yeah.
And so having that contract in place, he wasn't looking for the job. And when Lane made the decision to go to LSU, that is when, obviously, we were live on location whenever everything went down. In fact, I thought it would be an interim capacity that he would be the head coach.
I did too.
And then all of a sudden, we would learn that it would be a head coach.
Keith said he's the coach.
And Keith had said, when I looked around the room, and then we looked at all the candidates we were thinking about and all the people we were going to talk to, we thought, we've got a guy that's as good or better than everybody else. What are we doing? And so that's when the decision was made.
Yeah. And I told Tina, Keith Carter, whatever he wants, Ole Miss needs to give it to him. Because he is just, our sports are just going crazy. 2 Sweet 16s, the softball went to the World Series. We went to the CFP semifinals, the sports, the championship in golf, just crazy amount of stuff going on. And here's a fact I bet you didn't know. My son-in-law's mother is Keith's first cousin.
Really?
Yep. She's from the Perrys over
Perryville, Arkansas.
No, Perry, the Perry family in Tunica, the huge farm, Perry Farms.
Yeah.
So she's from there. And so he's, so it's kind of wild when I found that out.
That's someone that does not, as much credit as Keith Carter gets, it's never enough.
No.
You talk about back against the wall and put in a tough situation. I think he and Chancellor Boyce, when everything was going down, and obviously you could kind of feel the separation coming between Keith Carter, Ole Miss, and that group versus Lane and his group. It just felt like things were kind of going to part there. I just feel like that Keith always put the university first, Tom. I really believe that, and whenever Ole Miss, anytime gets in an adverse situation, he always, number one, he's like, what can I do to benefit the University of Mississippi? What can I do to protect the university?
Yep.
And, those decisions that were made, and you know what, I have to applaud how Lane, kind of everything, everything kind of went towards LSU, and Ole Miss tried to take care of itself as well. Those parties split fairly amicably, and I know I'm going to get pushed back on that, but if you look at how Charlie Weiss Jr. was able to stay on his offensive coordinator,
Kevin
and then
Smith.
Lane very publicly was positive towards Ole Miss winning, and I mean the coaches coaching here and there. It feels like, although I understand there might be some ruffled feathers down the road, but it feels like that things were handled pretty well. But I think more importantly from Ole Miss side of things, the way that Chancellor Boyce and Keith Carter made sure to put the university first. I think that is what Ole Miss fans appreciated.
Yeah,
and it wasn't easy. That decision to be made when that Iron Bowl was going on, Tom, and not sure what was going to happen at that point when everybody knew that Ole Miss wasn't going to make the championship game and the rubber, quote unquote, had to meet the road.
Yeah,
Keith Carter made the decision, and as you can say, the rest is history.
Yeah. Lane told me the other day I need to come do juice on the Tiger Walk. I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. I live in Oxford. I'd get run out of this town. So,
but I want to, I think you and I started talking initially because I just wanted to come and meet Juice for the first time, and I forget what game it was, but it's really cool to see how that relationship grew. And Juice is much more than just. Originally, it was just Lane's dog.
And it was Landry's dog originally.
Landry, that's right. And the picture was taken in the car and all that. And it Juice kind of took off the light of his own, so to speak, and it begun to be kind of the unofficial mascot of the university. And I think what it did for someone like just an old guy like me from Bruce, that as I told you earlier, I'm not a dog owner. I love animals. I'm just not a dog owner. I've never had a dog, but I've had a incredible appreciation for animals. So much so that when my friends would go hunting, I would go and film it.
Oh,
I love nature, love being in it. Just never enthused about harvesting an animal. Although I have no problem with that, that's just never something I wanted to do. And so going out and seeing what Juice did his entire career at Ole Miss, and seeing how you trained animals, and then seeing the growth of Wildrose has really been cool to watch.
Yeah, it's fun. It's one thing I love about these dogs is he can go from being on the sidelines on a Saturday, and Sunday morning he's in the duck line and just performing like a champ. So that's what I love about the versatility of the British Labrador. Every day is the greatest day of their life. We're going fishing today. Greatest day of my life. We're going hunting today. Greatest day of my life. We're going to sit at the house and watch Hallmark movies. Greatest day of my life. They're just happy. And I tell people we can learn from that.
There's no doubt. Especially in the world we live in today. And there's so much negativity. And I think the world of athletics is, now you and I are much deeper into Ole Miss athletics than the average Joe. But I think in large part athletics are supposed to be a jubilant process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, I could argue that it's in many ways it's like pulling teeth at some point, with some of the games that we're going through because it's so difficult. I know I saw you on the sideline for a couple of playoff games. Of course, obviously we were in Phoenix, and then of course we were in the jubilant times of New Orleans. I mean, so we have absolutely been on the highs and lows of this Ole Miss football team. But what a ride it was! And
Oh, wow.
Brett Norsworthy, a very good friend of mine, is on the pre and post game show on the Ole Miss Radio Network, and I told him that in the goal of what I do is I truly try to be the eyes and ears of Ole Miss fans, especially when you have road games like Oklahoma and games when we'd go to Tiger Stadium or when Ole Miss would go to Georgia. I would do my best to try to bring the atmosphere and everything to the Rebel fan back home. And I think in large part I told Brett this year is I worked so hard to try to provide that the goal was to, whether it be a financial goal or whether it be a sponsorship goal or whether it be a numbers goal on social channels. I think I got so tied up into that I forgot sometimes to just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
I look around and Ben Garrett and I, who would do a post-game show, and it just went wild in Starkville that day. We had over, I think, 500,000 impressions, and we had, I think at one point we had 5,000 comments and so many views. And that was obviously had the altercation on the field.
Yeah.
It's not really an altercation. It's a conversation on the field.
Yeah.
But long story short, that's what drives traffic. And I was talking to Brett. He said, Brad, you have to understand, just don't forget and enjoy the ride and look where you're at. You know what I mean? And in some ways, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think in everyday life, when you talk, just the advent of, we were talking about a specific animal that you purchased overseas, and you're bringing that animal back here to be a particular piece of the puzzle here at Wildrose. And rather than just think about the beginning and the end, what about everything that happens and how much fun you have in the middle? And so I think that's in large part for everybody watching and listening, that's everyday life.
It's funny you bring that up. When I finish our seminar, when we do puppy pickings in here, because we give out so many do's and don'ts, like 2.5 hours worth of do's and don'ts. And at the end, I said, don't get so wrapped up in the weeds that you don't have fun.
Yeah. Because
these animals are amazing and they bring so much to our lives. Don't forget to have fun. You're going to have bad days. Guess what? There's tomorrow. Just call it a day, move forward, and don't forget to have fun.
One thing that you and I talked about specifically was the latter part of the season. And I think it was because the hoodie that Pete had on, you have one on. And everybody had asked me and their mother about that Ole Miss Nike hoodie.
Yeah.
Anyway, it led to a conversation that you and I had. And basically it was, Ole Miss is really taking care of you.
Oh.
And I know that's important to you, that Ole Miss took care of you.
I've had a lot of people, don't you hate Lane Kiffin? I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
He treated me and my wife like gold. I don't know if I ever told you the story. So the first practice I go to with Juice, I had on some khaki shorts, a nice Brooks Brothers button down, kind of in Ole Miss colors. And Ken Crane brings me this bag. I said, Coach, when do you have this? Okay. Put it in the Jeep, took Juice over to, that's where in the temporary offices while they were working on the Manning Center.
Yeah.
Took Juice over to Coach's office, and he looks at me and goes, did you get that bag? I said, yeah. He goes, you don't dress like that anymore. You're one of us. You're staff. You dress like us. And that's how he treated me. And Tom Luke, Thad Rivers, all the coaches are like, you're part of the program. So that was fun, little redneck kid from Southern Indiana.
Yeah, and even when Lane stepped away and made the decision to go to LSU, that didn't change for you in the athletic department, did it?
It didn't. I talked to Pete one Sunday at practice, and he came over and talked to me for a while, and I asked him, I was like, is it cool if I still come around? He goes, you can come here anytime you want. Yeah. So really good relationship with those guys.
I know we talked about you growing up in Southern Indiana, being a UK fan.
Yeah, so my dad's from Kentucky, so I grew up a UK fan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe not the case anymore, huh?
We talked about that on the live show in New Orleans. Yeah, I've got like 2 pieces of UK stuff and about 90 Ole Miss pieces. So, and people ask me, were you a little happy when Kentucky beat Ole Miss? I was like, no. Yeah. Kentucky doesn't do anything for me. I got a degree from there, but I'm not on the sidelines. I don't have access to the team. Players don't come to my house. So no, I'm definitely switched over. I'm pretty much true blue, true red and blue Ole Miss.
I have to ask one more quick thing, and then the name Wildrose Kennels, I hear it all over the place. Especially in the shows I watch with Taylor Sheridan. I'm a huge Taylor Sheridan fan on Paramount Plus, and I was watching Landman the other day, and one of the daughters says Wildrose Kennels. That it's just amazing how the name is all over across the country now.
Yeah. So Taylor Sheridan had told John Murphy, who trained his dog, that he had a surprise for us. Didn't say when, didn't say what. And then that first episode of season 3, they're talking about Wildrose Kennels. My phone goes,
yeah.
I'm like, he's got one of our dogs. So pretty fun stuff. And then, Lane getting the dog, and Mike Leach came up here. We were trying to get him a dog.
Yeah.
And my stomach hurt for 3 days after he left. I laughed so hard for 3 hours. He's just telling stories, and what a freaking national treasure that man is.
The world is a sadder place without Mike Leach.
Yeah. His wife was with him. She's like, Mike, you got that event tonight. We got to get back to Starkville and get on the plane. He goes, that plane will be there when we get there.
Yeah.
He's just so funny. That was fun getting to know him. And I texted with him after that. They'd have a big win. I'd text him stuff. He always texted back.
Yeah.
Just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So back to the sports information office. I had no idea what kind of machine that is.
It is.
It was like, Kyle Campbell, deal with him a lot. And just they get so many requests for media stuff, podcasts, live hits, and they have to manage all that. It was just, I had no idea it was that big of a machine.
And obviously it has to do with the success of the athletic programs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and like you said, it is not a 9-to-5 job.
No,
it is 24/7. For example, Mike handles Ole Miss men's basketball. Mike Schwartz right now is probably getting ready for a press conference at some point with Chris Beard.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got to get ready with all of his game notes, managing interview requests, because the game is on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
He might get home at 2 o'clock in the morning,
and
then he's got to get up and do it all again. But living in that world gives me such an appreciation for media relations, because when I was at Delta State, we traveled by bus everywhere. And so we traveled all over Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and, Alabama too, when we'd go play North Alabama. And so that's a long way. That's a lot of bus rides. It's a lot of typing on a laptop. But you look at what Ole Miss does, and it is an incredibly well-oiled machine. Kyle Campbell does a great job overseeing kind of everything that kind of trickles down from there with Brad Sheffield, who we deal with all the time at football. And everybody else in that athletic department is really, really good to work with. And anytime I've ever had an issue at all I do is just text them. Mm-hmm. And even with Keith Carter, Catherine Thornton oversees Keith's booking. And I've always been, I don't know if it's because that's how I grew up in that world, but I've never went directly to the coaches. Mm-hmm. I've always went to their intermediaries, the sports information people, or Catherine for Keith. And then Dr. Boyce, I've always went to his media relations people at the university level, media relations, not athletic. And I've just always respected that. And I don't know that everybody does that, but you know what? I've never been told no except for Lane Kiffin. I was never able to get Lane. And I'll probably never be able to get Pete, but I'm okay with that. I mean, they make the head coach available a lot, and that's where we can get most of our information. We're not ESPN. We're just a small little network. But I have, been able to talk to every coach that I've ever requested. And I think that says a lot, number one, about doing things the right way, being respectful and understanding that you're not out to get anybody.
Yeah.
But number two, that goes a lot to say about the university is always understanding we're trying to get the message out, and they're using me, and I'm using them, and we're all using each other. And I say that in a nice way of doing our job.
100%. Yeah.
We're leaning on each other to do our job. And so that, to me, the way that the university does that structure from Kyle down to Brad and Jake Romana does a great job overseeing all the video for athletics, and everybody kind of working together, and it's really, really well done. I mean, every time there's an event or a press conference for people that don't know. It's a certain time, and the only way that deviates is if a coach is late.
Yeah.
And so they're very rarely, they're not going to be early, but they may be late, and that's, it's kind of the deal. They would tell us, hey, this is what time coach is supposed to be here. Then we have these student athletes. And by the way, too, it's at home games. There's press conferences. On the road, there's usually a small group of press that travel on the road. Brad Sheffield is at every game. Tyler Wooten's usually there with him. But they'll tell us, all right, guys, we're set up this place by the locker room, and we'll all kind of go as a group. We'll go there, and now the bowl games are different. They're all kind of together. But for road games like at Oklahoma or Georgia or LSU or wherever, there's certain places. And if you've been around, you kind of know where those places are going to be, and those are where the press conferences are. Then you go back and you take care of your business in the press box, and that's where we'll do our post-game shows. And then we hit the road. But, yeah, Ole Miss is very, very lucky. Don't be surprised. Ole Miss media are very lucky because the university does such a good job. But look, I said all along, and you've got Chancellor Boyce, who Dr. Ford Dye was on that committee, and when he was hired, Dr. Dye told me, he says, Brad, this is going to be one of the best hires Ole Miss has ever made.
Wow. And
I said, okay, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Yep.
And boy, was he right.
Yep.
He has been incredible for the university. He was absolutely right. And then you come down, I talked about Keith Carter and how good of a job I think Keith does. And then you kind of trickle it down there from, I think right now, and I said this when Lane was the coach, and we'll see what happens with Pete. Right now, he's 2-1 in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
What do we know?
Yeah.
But when Lane was the head coach, I said Ole Miss had the best collection of head coaches in program history.
Yeah.
And that may continue with Pete. We'll see.
Yeah.
But, by what Lane did, left the second winningest coach in Ole Miss history. And that's winning percentage, and that's a lot.
Yeah, Chris Beard, Coach Yo,
Chris
Coach
Beard,
Malloy.
maybe the best basketball coach tactically in the country.
Yeah.
And so, Coach Yo, Mike Bianco, Coach Malloy, the men's golf coach.
I love that guy.
We'll see. I think Coach Traxel at softball is doing a really good job.
Yes.
So
with her little dog Finley.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see. We follow each other on Twitter.
Well, you talk about Coach Traxel. I went to the home run derby, and I was interviewing her. Well, I was talking to her, and I had my daughter with me. And she got to meet Coach Traxel. I got their picture made. But, she had the smallest dog I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just a tiny little dog. Little bitty dog. Mm-hmm. But, it's that's one of my things, having the privilege of being on silence, all the people I got to meet, Eli Manning, Chuck Liddell, Patrick Willis, Laura Rutledge, Alyssa Lang, Cole Cuba, all the guys, people you see on TV and famous people, and get meeting them was like super fun.
Is. And here's something too I don't think needs to be kind of forgotten here is the director of facilities, Neil Mead. Neil is great. And seeing what he's able to do at the university level at Vaught Hemingway Stadium, pulling all the right levers. The Tulane game, the college football playoff game, the very first college football playoff game on Ole Miss's campus, the biggest game in the state of Mississippi in history of college football, went off without a hitch.
It was wonderful.
And just seeing that entire team, from a facility standpoint, from a game management standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, it was really, really neat to watch. And just seeing all the fireworks, and I jokingly asked Keith about the firework budget, and he says, "Oh, it was triggered a long time ago." But I just basically said, just go.
Yeah.
I mean, drone show, lasers, fireworks.
Yep.
It was just a big old party, and that was a night that we'll always remember.
Yeah, and it's one other thing that I don't think people realize. After the game, by the time we walk off to the field, go into the Manning Center for a while, and come back out, they're already fixing the turf. Yeah. I mean, that fast. Within 30 minutes at the end of the game, that whole crew is out there working on the turf.
The athletic grounds management team is great.
Yeah.
And you look at what they're able to do. I mean, because we used to, and to your point here, we used to do our post-game show on the field. But if you're not out there just like that, they're going to get that blower out, and they're going to blow it because they're going to come back in and fix all the divots. Then they're going to roll it, and they're going to mow it.
Yep.
That night. So those guys and girls, they're not going home for another 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So the university athletic plant division, the people that oversee the agriculture on campus, they do great work.
Yeah.
And the field, I don't know if you know this, and a lot of people may not, but back in the late 1990s, it was grass. It was grass all the way up to '02. It was either '01 or '02. In the southeastern corner of that area around the 20-yard line, they couldn't grow grass. I don't know if it was a fungus, but it was just, they were just big clumps would come up.
Wow.
And so it got so bad that they just tore the grass up. And it was turf for years. And then they finally, artificial surface. It was artificial surface for years. And then that rocked along there for a while. Then obviously natural grass would come back. And then they've got it really figured out now because it's a really good surface, and they do a wonderful job.
Yeah. I was asking Lucas and, Caden Davis came back for a while to help with the playoffs and everything, if they'd rather kick on turf or natural. And they said this time of year, after 7 or 8 football games, with all the divots, they said they'd rather kick on the turf.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was surprised.
Well, judging by what we saw from our kicker from Louisville that transferred in, he obviously enjoyed Lucas Carnero, obviously the starting Ole Miss kicker. He enjoys the surface at New Orleans because he kicked the 55 and then broke the record 30 minutes later and kicked the 57.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he is absolutely phenomenal. He will be back next year. So many other players are coming back this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun in 26. I thought it was going to be more of a rebuilding year, but then when all of those, we saw the graphics come out about staying home. When I saw those come out, it's going to be more of a reloading year.
Yeah, 100%. Lucas and Oscar and Brick, who's going to be the long snapper next year, they're actually coming out to watch the national championship tonight. We're going to do a taco bar.
That's going to be nice.
Yeah, they're great kids, just fantastic young men. So, it's been a wild ride for sure. Well, where can everybody find you?
We're on X at Brad Logan COT. That's kind of where the hub is, and honestly, we've been there for about 10 years, and maybe even 15 years, and it's just kind of grown from there. And I have a company that I work with. It's more of a collaboration with the Believe Network, and that's where I host my podcast. I have a YouTube channel at Logan Media Network that we host all of our YouTubes that we have with. Or the videos we host on YouTube that we do for Believe. But then Believe helps me also because I distribute on Facebook at Brad Logan and then TikTok. And that is something that my daughter, I have a beautiful 12-year-old daughter that knows so much more about TikTok than I do. So they help me post that. And so I don't do a lot with TikTok, but Facebook has become a nice location for folks to receive our content. And then we partner also with the Ole Miss Spirit. And Ben Garrett and I work together, and we collaborate.
Dude's a nut.
Yeah, we collaborate a lot. We had a show this morning, and we had a lot of people chiming in on this Martin Luther King Day, Junior Day. And so we had a lot of people joining us and just everybody's talking about the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what's the starting offensive line going to be? And of course, we broke down the offense and defense, and it's, as you know, it's year-round. I mean, college football is year-round. It used to be, all right, let's take a couple of months off, have a couple of months of spring training, take summer off. It's just
I talked to Tom Luke about that. I was like, we were doing Juice Fest. I was like, so what was it like when you were recruited here? He goes, y'all want to play football with us? And then he said that's kind of how it was. And now you'll have all these official visits and the dinners and the decorations and everything. So the Believe Network is BLEAV.
Yes.
So it's not believe like I believe in myself.
BLEAV.
Yeah.
And you can catch all of us just like you guys. We're on Spotify, Apple, all of your downloadable podcast platforms, and all of our audio or our video is on YouTube. That's where we host all of our podcasts. Awesome.
Well, this has been fantastic.
Well, I appreciate you having me out here. This is a beautiful facility, and I can't thank you enough. It's really cool. I mean, I always got to see you, whether it be walking through the Grove, but mainly on the sidelines. We can kind of catch up before or during a game, and it's always cool to see how successful this facility is, because even, interestingly enough, even for someone that's not very knowledgeable on animals and not very knowledgeable on dogs, I do have an incredible appreciation for that, and how much I appreciate nature, and how much I appreciate how much you guys give back, and the pure breeds, and making sure that everything is done on the up and up, so to speak.
Ethically.
And that means a lot to me. And it means a whole lot to my wife, who is very much an animal person. So
sounds like she needs a puppy.
Well, she was very excited.
Don't y'all comment? Does Brad and his wife and their daughter need a puppy?
We need a Wildrose animal, a Wildrose puppy. So, but no, she was really excited to hear that I was coming out, and so it's really neat.
Awesome. So we're gonna wrap it up, y'all. Follow along with us at all the socials at Wildrose Kennels, uklabs.com for all your training gear and your cool Wildrose gear. You can find us at wildrosetradingcompany.com. So thanks again, Brad, and we'll see y'all in the field.